Okay, I want to talk about composition now. And if you look, what am I going to look at? Let's go right here. It's this stuff down here. So this is going to be a recording of what I'm talking about right now. But composition is going to model a has a relationship, like a car has a radio or a person has a watch. I am going to build this composition introduction project using raw pointers. And I want you to go over this composition introduction project using unique pointers. Right. Now remember, inheritance um, uh, implements an is a relationship. A horse is an animal. Composition is different. It is a has a. Like I have a watch. I have a pair of socks. And we're going to build it this way. There's some things you need to be aware of. So if a car has a radio, the way that you would put this together is the car would just have a pointer to a radio class. And if the radio pointer is null, then the car doesn't have a radio. Otherwise, the car can interact with the radio. So it either has one or it doesn't have one. So pointers are awesome for composition. It makes it so that an object can have something or not have something. It also works well with unique pointers. Composition is going to be more natural than inheritance because the world is really composed of stuff. Now you use these two together when designing complex systems, but composition is probably going to be your go-to for most cases because things are always composed of other things. A bike is composed of pedals and composed of a seat and composed of wheels. A car has tires and an engine. So composition is both more natural than inheritance and easier to understand. It's a lot easier to debug too, because you have a clean separation between the class that holds something and the class that, between the classes. A class just has one class is just a pointer to another class. And composition is easier to change later on because you can change the implementation of the class that an object is composed of without really modifying the parent class. So if a person has a watch, then all that person needs is a pointer to the watch. I can change how my watch gets time, and as long as it still returns the same thing, like a string, then I can change exactly how I'm going to get my time or how I format it. As long as I return the same type, it should be much easier to modify a system that's built around composition. So let me show you composition. It implements a has a relationship. And so here I've got a instance of a person class and an instance of a watch. And so either you have a watch or you don't have a watch. Pointers are great for this. I just have a watch pointer. If a person has a watch, then P is going to point to it. If not, the person doesn't have a watch. And here's how you would probably implement this. If P, you're going to ask the watch to get the time. So the watch has this get time function. So if you have a pointer, then return the time that the watch indicates. If you don't have a pointer to a watch, then if someone asks you what time it is, you just tell them, I don't have a watch. So putting this together is relatively straightforward. And I'm going to implement this project that I showed you here. And so here it is. And so first off, I'm going to need a watch. Now a watch is not particularly interesting. So I'm just going to add this watch class back here. And I'm going to include watch here. So save it and go ahead and build it and see if everything builds okay. Yeah, it built okay. And so let's create an instance of a watch. So let's see. So I can do this. Watch W and then W. And if you look at my watch, the watch is pretty straightforward. It's got a constructor, no argument, and a destructor, no argument, and this function called get time. Get time is just a C++ implementation that's going to tell you the time. And so I can output what time it is here. Get rid of that. So am I right there? Yeah, I'm right there. So W dot get time, that's going to output what time it is. So you do it this way. See out, W dot get time returns a string. and then inline, and there we go. And so if I run this, it's just going to tell me what time it is. Let me see if I can build it first. The time is 41 minutes after 2. Set a breakpoint and step into this. Start there, right, and create my watch. It's an auto-generate. There's nothing really to do with it. So step in there. I'm done. I've got my watch. Call get time. And when I call get time, I step through all this to get the current time, put it into a string, and I'm going to return the current time as a string. And then I'm just going to output what time it is. So that's pretty straightforward. But that isn't exactly what I've done here, because the person has a pointer to a watch. So let's implement that. So I've already got my watch. It's created. My person is going to be composed of a watch at this point. So let's create my person class, or my human class. So I'm going to go back to Eclipse and new class name. Well, I guess I'll call it a human. Here's my human class. All I need is the constructor and a destructor. Well, the class already exists. Where does it exist? It does not. Let's see, get rid of that. And temp folder, build it. All right, I'll create a person class. So let me just rename that. Let's see, rename human 1. And human 1.h. Okay, and there we go. All right, so now I'll create my human class. New class, human. And there we go, finish. And there's my human class. And I'll get rid of this because I don't need it. Now my human is going to have a watch. So, and it's got to be a pointer. So, and there we go. And so what I have to do, if my human is going to have a watch, then I have to include watch there. All right, so I'm kind of set right now. There's what my human's going to have. Now, if you have a watch, well, you can look at the watch API, virtual standard string get time. That gets the time. If I want to get the time from the human, I'm going to ask basically the same thing. So I can just take this function. I can call it whatever I want, but it's much easier to call it the same thing that the watch calls it. If I get the time from the watch, I'll have the same API call as trying to get the time from a human. You can call it whatever you want, but it's easier if it's the same, because it makes it easier to figure, because I don't have to figure out that get time from watch is the same as getting time from the watch, and that's what it does. So I'm going to add this function to the human, so I can ask the human, what time is it? And it can be virtual, but I don't have a class hierarchy, so virtual is not going to really help here. So I can just dump this. I don't really need this, the virtual. Go back here for my human. And human get time. Returns get time. And so now, what I'm going to do is, well, there's human right there. Well, I'm going to create it so that I can initialize. When I create my human, I give them a watch. So I'm going to pass it in as a watch pointer. And which means here, I need to change my API. And now my human has a single argument constructor. So there's my watch pointer, and I need to have it in. And there's my human.h. There's my watch. Now I need to initialize this internal member variable, p. Set p equal to p, equal to the p that's passed in. All right, so I'm almost done. I don't really need this destructor either, because I'm not managing memory here. I do have to worry about get time. So here's watch's implementation of get time. Standard string get time, and here's standard string humans get time. So the way I'm going to do this is I want to check if somebody asks me the time. And the way the human will do that, will work this is they're going to look at their wrist. If they have a watch, um, what the human will do is they're going to delegate to the watch. So if the pointer points to something, they're going to return get time. It's asking the watch what time it is. Otherwise, they're going to return I don't have a watch. And so this is how composition works. The human is composed of stuff. In this case, the human is just composed of, this human just has a watch. That's it. They don't have a name or anything. They can just have a watch. And this, what I'm doing right now is called delegation. When I ask the human what time it is, if the human has a watch, the human asks the watch. That's delegation. The human is delegating to the watch to get the time. So I'm going to create a human here. There's my watch. Yeah, I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to actually put this together. So I'm going to create a regular human with no watch to start with. And let me include human. There we are. All right, there's my human. I'm going to pass in a 0. That's going to pass in a human with no watch. Now I want to ask the human what time it is, like this. So, and I'm going to skinny this up a little bit. There we are. All right. So if I ask the human the time, the human is not a watch, but this human can own one. So when asked the time, this human is going to say, well, h1 human.get time. All right, so let's see what we get here. Let's try to build it. Kill that and try to build it. Oh, it's not building, so something's wrong here. Let's see what's wrong here. Let's go back here, try to build that thing and see what the errors are. It's human with a capital H, not a lowercase h. All right, so now let's getting that up again. Let's build this. Virtual outside of class definition. What did yeah, I just copied that directly. Virtual can only be inside of the header file in the class definition. Can't be anywhere else. Yeah, build it again. Oh, now I'm golden. And so if I'm going to run this, I'm going to create a human that doesn't have a watch. And so you can, I don't need a breakpoint there. I want a breakpoint there. And so if I run this, my human's going to say, I don't have a watch. And you can see this actually happen when I step into this. So if I look, I create my human here with no watch, and I can go to my variables and see, hey, there's my human. My human only has a watch, and that watch is null. And so I ask the human what time it is when I step into this. Hey, human, get time, step over. If this is not null, I'm going to delegate to the watch to get the time, but it is null. So I'm going to return I don't have a watch. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's give the human a watch. So here, so let's create another human and give this human a watch. There's my watch. Give this human a watch. Now there's some funkiness going on here because I've got this pointer pointing to a new watch, and I'm passing that watch to this human. So what's going to happen is the human's going to have a pointer to the watch, and I am now going to have a pointer to the watch. But regardless, my human is now managing a pointer. So my human, and you can see it here, hey, it's got a pointer. And so I've got to do something inside of my destructor. So if my human gets a watch, I have to determine, hey, who's going to destroy this watch? Well, I'm going to assume that if somebody gives me a watch, it's mine and I'm responsible for cleaning it up. So if this human has a watch, they're responsible for cleaning it up. So if P, delete P, and there we go. So that's cleaning up the watch. But that adds some complexity here, because if you look at this, I'm creating a watch. I've got this pointer pointing to a watch, and when I hand it to my human, oh, where's my human? I'll put my human over there. My human's going to make a shallow copy of that pointer. So when I finish this statement here, I'm creating my human right there. My human will now have a pointer to the watch, and my watch is now going to have a pointer to my watch. And so I basically have to set my original pointer to null. And now my human is totally managing that watch. And that kind of makes sense, because a watch can't be in two places at the same time. Once somebody creates a watch and gives it to me, it's mine. No one else manages it. So probably a better way to handle this is this way. Never have this pointer W to manage. Just create a new watch there. Get rid of that. Let's see if this works. Or you can use smart pointers. Now, unique pointers is a perfect application for that. And lo and behold, there's composition introduction using unique pointers. You're responsible for this project. Let's go back here and finish this project. All right, let's ask this human what time it is. So, and this is h2.getTime. I'm going to set a breakpoint here and a breakpoint here, so we'll see what's going on. Save it, and we're going to debug it. And we're going to hit the first breakpoint. There we go. Step over. And the first person, where am I? Oh, I'm the first person, H1, is checking to see if they have a watch. They don't have one. So they're going to indicate that they don't have a watch. And so when so H1 says, I don't have a watch. Now the second human, oh shoot, let me get rid of that. I forgot to change that to H2. All right, get rid of that breakpoint. Set that breakpoint. All right, and let's run it again. There we go, and I'm gonna hit that breakpoint. The first human is creating a watch. No, my first human didn't have a watch, and so it indicates it doesn't have a time. So what do? You go and ask someone else what time it is. And so here's my human too. I'm passing this human a watch though. So, oh, whoops. I'm not keeping track of that. So oh, that's my watch itself. I'm creating a new watch. That's okay. I don't need to worry about my watch. I'm creating a new instance of it. No big deal. Let's see if my human too, if I set that up properly. Go look at the variables. H2 has a pointer and it points to, by golly, a watch. Let's ask this human what time it is. So when I ask this human what time it is, when I call into this function, when I get time, this is called delegation. The human 2, when I ask it get time, this human is going to delegate to the watch to get the time because it's got one. I've got a watch. I'm going to delegate to the watch to get the time, step through all this code, return the time, and then I'm going to return what the actual time is. So the human 2 is going to tell exactly what time it is. And so that's it. That's what composition is. Things are composed of things. And so of all the stuff here, inheritance and composition, inheritance is cool, it's nice, but it's hard to get right. And initially, when you're designing with inheritance, it's pretty easy to set up, but debugging inheritance, especially deep hierarchies, is very difficult. Composition, there's a clean separation between objects. This object is just composed of this object. I can modify different objects, and it's not going to affect other objects that are using those. So composition is both, it's more natural and it's easier to use than inheritance. But there's a place for both of them in designing complex systems. And we'll do that when you come back from your test. So, but in general, you want to prefer composition over inheritance. And I'd like you to really know how this second project works. Composition introduction using unique pointers. You're going to need that. You'll need that for the test, at least for the final, and you're definitely going to need that for the project that's coming up. All right, and thank you. That's it for now.